The subcommittee will come to order. Welcome to this important hearing entitled A Review and Assessment of the Fiscal Year 2019 Budget Request for the Department of Defense Science and Technology Programs. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis recently testified that, quote, "Our competitive edge has eroded in every domain of warfare, air, land, sea, space, and cyber," end quote. And I couldn't agree more. Our committee and the Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee in particular has spent a considerable amount of time reviewing and understanding adversarial threats, most notably from China and Russia, while also keeping an eye on emerging technologies such as quantum science, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, synthetic biology, autonomy, and robotics. We have seen troubling adversarial advances in warfighting systems like hypersonics and directed energy, and adversarial advances in enabling technologies to include high-performance computing and artificial intelligence. We have also learned that many of our adversaries continue to increase their research and development budgets and implement national-level strategic plans. Russia has increased their basic research budget by nearly 25%, and the Chinese have national-level plans for science and technology, as well as an approach to lead the world in AI by 2030. All of these signs point to top-down, government-driven agendas that provide resources and roadmaps for strategic collaboration between industry, academia, and civil society. These efforts could propel Russia and China to continue to leap ahead in many of the technology sectors we will talk about today. But adversarial dominance is not a foregone conclusion. What we learn today and in future hearings must be translated into action to inform and reform the Department of Defense in support of national level efforts in order that the United States remains home to the world's leading experts, researchers, and technological breakthroughs. Artificial intelligence is one sweeping area that I am particularly interested in from a national security perspective. Next week, I plan to introduce standalone legislation that will start the discussion on how we should better organize our government to understand and leverage AI. I look forward to working with my colleagues on the committee and also with the Department of Defense as we craft solutions for this year's NDAA. Given these challenges, I am very pleased to see a total of $13.7 billion for science and technology in the Department of Defense budget request, an approximate $500 million increase and 2.3% of the total defense budget. But despite this increase, I remain concerned that our S&T investments represent a small percentage of our overall defense budget. To truly increase lethality and provide a superior technological edge for our warfighters, we should ask ourselves if 2.3% of the total defense budget is the correct balance. A properly resourced science and technology enterprise in the long run reduces risk and, when properly executed, can generate efficiencies within the department, something we need to keep in mind amidst debates on sequestration and continuing resolutions. Now, more than ever, our S&T enterprise and investments play a strategic role and are central to our national and economic security. This hearing also marks our first open S&T event since the National Defense Authorization Act directed the reestablishment of the position of the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering within the department. And as I have said in previous statements, I firmly believe that the Undersecretary for R&E needs to be the prime mover to drive change and foster innovation within the department. A primary mission of this office should be to provide distinct direction and leadership to energize the defense industrial base, the military services, combatant commanders, and the Department of Defense labs. It must also guide newer initiatives such as the Strategic Capabilities Office, the Defense Innovation Unit, Experimental or DIUX, and even the Algorithmic Warfare Working Group and the Defense Digital Service. And while many of these new initiatives have created tremendous momentum and energized a conversation about changing the culture of the Department of Defense, much more needs to be done to make these more than one-off quick gains. If properly empowered and resourced, I also believe that the Undersecretary for R&E will be in a unique position to drive a national-level dialogue for S&T policy that will, in addition to helping maintain a battlefield advantage, energize our domestic industrial and innovation bases, and provide technology jobs and opportunities across many of the sectors we will talk about today. So we have significant expectations, clearly, of Dr. Mike Griffin and his office, but we do so while also offering our support and confidence because the threats we face from our adversaries demand that we energize and organize our government to ensure that policy indeed keeps pace with technology. So to help us with this important topic today, we welcome 5 distinguished witnesses, starting with my left, Ms. Mary Miller, performing the duties of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Research and Engineering, Dr. Stephen Walker, Director of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, Dr. Tom Russell, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Research and Technology, Rear Admiral David Hahn, Chief of Naval Research, and Mr. Jeff Stanley, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Air Force for Science, Technology, and Engineering. Welcome to all of our witnesses, and we look forward to your testimony. I want to welcome my friend and ranking member, Jim Langevin, whose timing is indeed perfect. And when he gets situated, I would like to recognize him for any opening comments he'd like to make.